Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm Sean Butler. It's your Monday morning transfer news, views and clues. Before we get into that, I hope you're all happy and healthy. Please do me a favour, guys. Hit the like button for me if you enjoy the video. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. We're close to 25k. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topics. And look, it's the end of the season, so I could talk all day long about the Sheffield United game, but I'll save you the bother because do any of us really care? We won the game 3-0. I don't know what we can learn from it. Kulusevski playing in the line and centrally and playing in a false line sort of thing was one of his better performances. There were good performances all round. A clean sheet for one of the only few times this season. A nice way to finish the season against a team that was already relegated. And so, you know, how much you can really learn from the competitive edge of the battle, I'm not sure. So that's why I'm not going to spend too much time reflecting on it, apart from to say good goals. Nice to see Porro get on the score sheet again. Decky getting a couple. His numbers for the season making him look better. But if we're honest, it was a frustrating season for him in terms of just getting consistency in his form, being played in and out of different positions, and it just didn't work. But you know, his numbers look better today than they did yesterday, but I don't think that they tell the real story. But that's as much as I really want to say, because I am a fan of Decky and I think he does offer something different, but I just think he needs to figure out something around consistency and predictability and kind of take a chance and grab it and never let it go, which he's been offered a few times and hasn't really taken. In terms of everything else, guys, just look on Ange's season generally. Let's just zoom out. We finished in 5th. We've qualified for the Europa League. That's good. I'm still, for what it's worth, annoyed by the fact that the chance to finish in the Champions League was seen as unimportant or deprioritised. I still think that even if we would have been beaten too easily at the Champions League level because we're not ready for it, I still think you should always strive for the best, to play the best, to be the best. And that's my take. But I've made that point on the last couple of videos, and if you feel differently, it's not having a crack. I'm not challenging, because I always think every opinion with Tottenham is generally valid, because you know we're so close but so far for so long from success. So let's just focus quickly on Ange's season. As far as I'm aware, as far as I've seen the stats, more goals scored than last season, fewer goals conceded than last season, better finishing position, I think more points. All in all, a better season than Conte's last season. All in all, when you bake that into the fact that we are pivoting violently 180 degrees in the direction of travel of Tottenham Hotspur, and remembering that this guy is just the first guy in, you hope, not just a long series of continued pivot towards a new vision at Tottenham, a new era, but he's the first manager of several that will go in that direction. He is not going to be here for 4 or 5 years in all likelihood. So what he is doing is setting the groundwork and the foundations for not just now, but the future. However, within that, in the time that he will be here, he has ambitions to take us to the very top. And you hear that in every single message, every single video interview that he participates in. Like, I never picked up on it before, but I now go back and watch the interviews that I've heard from him from day one, where there were layers to the messages and the meanings that he was saying, and I never picked up on them at the time. I was listening to them on face value, but now I hear them on face value and the deeper meaning behind it. And I realise it's a consistent theme with him, that it's so much more about mentality and belief and confidence and conviction in what you're doing, and less so about anybody else. With this guy, that's his thing. He has 100% of his energy is worried about what we are doing, and less so about anybody else. Focus on yourself. And he says it again and again and again in a million different ways when answering 100 different questions, but it always includes something about the bigger picture of what we're trying to achieve here. And the last interview that he gave at the end of the season yesterday, the last question, he said he has lofty ambitions for this football club. And whilst this season has been up and down and frustrating, and for sure the last piece of it has been fairly frustrating, he is very much looking forward to what's to come. And then the final clip I saw was him signing a shirt of some supporter, and they said, well done this season. And he said, thank you, we'll be much better next year. And for me, as the final words of your manager, to reinforce that message that he has these ambitions and he believes we're going to be better, and knowing that it's all in his mind around conviction in what you're doing and how you do it, and everything else is of such weaker, such less importance. It gives me such confidence in this guy. I love backing people that believe in themselves, and this guy just exudes it. And so I can't wait for the summer. I can't wait for the transfer window to start. I've got some transfer news, views and clues for you, but you know what? Some of them are probably going to be names, not just today, but throughout the summer. Some of them are probably going to be names where I, as a fan, am going to go, really? But if I'm going to give this guy my full backing, because I believe in his words, and I know talk is cheap and actions is more important, but for him to feel like he can put his best foot forward, and for him to realise his lofty ambitions that he said he has, and then also take us to that next forward, that second stage in the long-term evolution, the new era at Tottenham that requires Spursy to be out of the window. Spursy needs to be gone. And that starts with a different approach to football. It starts with a different approach to believing in yourself, to not buckling in the big moments, etc. All of those things that Ange is an expert at prioritising himself. This guy's involvement at Tottenham Hotspur right now is probably more meaningful than just his actual managerial process. It's about embedding a set of non-negotiables of every person that comes to the club, through the club, long after he's gone, that thing is instilled. And to those of you that say that the lack of that at the moment starts at the top, maybe there's some truth to that. Maybe there is some truth to that. You know, who does set the culture of a business? In the businesses I've been in, you know, they've been too big for me to think that the CEO that I never see or speak to is responsible for what happens on the trading desk. I feel like it happens in bubbles and in the minutiae in certain departments. But I don't know, maybe it is Daniel Levy that's allowed a culture of, you know, cracking under pressure or not taking the thing seriously, not treating yourself as seriously of a bigger team as other people do. Either way, Ange is taking responsibility of this. He is saying, I'm going to get this one going. I'm going to get it right. And as I say, with these transfer rumours, guys, there's going to be stories that I'm probably going to go, as a player, I'm not sure. But if he wants him, if he's desperate to have him because he sees something in the guy that fits what he's looking for, then I think it's important that we absolutely support that idea, because he knows what he wants more than anybody else. And of course, the first name that I'm going to bring to your attention to therefore today is, of course, once again, Conor Gallagher. The story is heating up. The deal, apparently, the conversations are happening more and more. And now that the window's done, Tottenham fly off to Australia, I think today for the game on Wednesday. But then on the return, there's going to be the negotiations. And it looks like that is the priority. Danny Olmo, however, according to John Wenham, is the other priority at Tottenham. Now, he is a player that I think makes a load of sense. I love John Wenham. I love Danny Olmo as a player. However, I'll ask the same question I asked last time he was mentioned, and that is, how much of the budget are we going to spend on a player who can come in to give competition for another player we already have, rather than immediately improve the first team in areas where there are gaping holes? If Danny Olmo is the priority, then I would hope that would mean that Daniel Levy is allocating more pro-risk, that he's going to front load some of the money available, spend more money than we think is possibly plausible given the numbers and how the accounts look. and go after that plus others. But for me, I think a striker is necessary. Of course, a left winger is a priority. I think you can make an argument for a right winger. We know there's a 6. And in terms of the back line, well, look, centre-back is still on the cards, right? Bit of transfer news for you today. Calafiori, the left-sided centre-back, left-back that plays out in Italy, we've been linked with. Really good player, by the way. Really looks like a talented, ball-carrying, tricky, feisty, aggressive player. Apparently, he's been taken off the market. Apparently, that his club has said, now we're going to keep him for 1 more year, see what his value's like in a year's time. So, according to reports, that one's done. Buongiorno is still on. But let me press pause for a second, because there's a lot of noise today that Emerson Royal is being linked to a lot of players, a lot of teams, good teams in fact, with fairly decent valuations. Rumours that we can get our money back on him, which would be quite incredible. Bayern Munich are one of the teams, a couple of teams in Spain, another team in Germany who I forget, and one in Italy, all looking at Emerson, and the rumours are 25 million quid is what would be the asking price. And so if there's truth to that, then maybe the assumption that how much of the secondary market can really afford to pay top money for the B team players that we're trying to get rid of, maybe that's not true. Maybe we can put together a decent transfer budget this summer by selling some of these second tier players. Hojbjerg, again, also lots and lots of suitors apparently. A bidding war may in fact emerge for him. So positive news in terms of outgoings. Lo Celso rumours again today. Looks like Spain is his destination. I think it was Celta Vigo or somewhere else I was looking at. Not going to get too much for him, and I think we'll lose a good player for cheap money. But the option for me, that it's the right decision either way. The question I was going to ask you guys to sort of round it off, because there's not a lot of noise out there in terms of transfer news. Just the same old names, as I say. Conor Gallagher, Danny Olmo this morning. But we've seen Micky Van play left back a couple of times. Now, shout out to Henry Wright. When we were playing one of the top 5 games recently, Henry suggested, I think it was for the Arsenal game, Henry suggested he wanted to put Micky Van De Ven at left back to protect against Saka. I said, no, you can't do that because then you'll lose him in the pace and you need him for the recovery, which I still stand by for that particular game. In the more recent games, we have actually seen him play left back, and he's done very well. He's got forward. He has looked very comfortable on the balls, got a lovely finish on him, knows how to shape his body to put it into the locker. We're seeing a side to his game emerge that was, we hadn't seen, or at least I hadn't seen. I love him defensively, love his pace and stuff, but in terms of his on the ball, I was comparing him to a Romero as a passer and thinking, well, they're chalk and cheese. Romero's one of the very best in the league, and Van de Ven's not of his level. But at left back, Van de Ven has come in and played the inverted role quite well when asked to do it. And so the question I'd have for you guys is, do we need to focus on getting in a left back to play back up to Udogie, who's not going to play very often unless Udogie's injured anyway, and maybe in the Europa League, the minutes or whatever? Do you want to see us go and get a Kyle Walker-Peters? And I know the reaction to that will be underwhelming, but because he's homegrown and home-trained, it makes sense. So there's all the logic behind it. But is there also, and I'm just asking, because I haven't landed on my opinion here on this one yet, at all. So don't quote me saying that Sean's suggesting this is I'm just asking. Is there a logic to say, don't worry about getting a left-back, because you have one in Micky Van De Ven? If you need him, he can do that very well, better than most of the B-level players that you're going to convince to come here and play second fiddle anyway. And then in a world where he has to play left-back because Udogie's injured or tired, then rather than Tottenham getting a £20 million left-sided centre-back as cover, could we not go out and get a monster? Like a player that's still being linked with the club. Today, I saw it, still being linked with a lot of clubs around Europe, and one of the best left-sided centre-backs in world football in Edmund Tapsoba. I know it's ridiculous, and I'm not even suggesting just him, but just someone of that calibre. There's loads of them out there. Buongiorno is another one. I preferred the Calafiori for what it's worth. I think he's a better player. But there are top quality left centre-backs that can come in who we could go after. And the sales pitch is you're going to get more minutes because we're playing 2 games a season anyway. But you're competing with Micky Van De Ven, which sounds daunting. But Destiny Udogie is of a frame. He has a stature that reminds me a lot of Reece James. And Reece James gets injured all of the time. And I do believe that Destiny Udogie will be someone with frequent injuries in his career. And so we have to have that backup for him. Now, do you go and get, a left back that's substandard that you don't really want anyway and spend 20 million, and also a left-sided centre-back that's going to cost you 30 million and spend 50 million quid on solving 2 holes? Or do you just use Micky Van De Ven as your option to play left-back, keep Ben Davies for 1 more year, and then go and use most of that budget on getting another monster centre-back so that your back line is then killed and absolutely sorted? I don't know, just a question, just a speculative question on this otherwise dry news day. But guys, the season is over. The transfer window begins. For those of you in Australia, look forward to what's happening in the next couple of days. See if you can get a picture with Big Ange. See if you can get a quote, because every single quote that you get from him, he has the perfect amount of words that say not too much, not too few, leaves a little room for interpretation, but every single one of them comes back to some sort of mentality, monster perspective. And I think fixing the mentality at Tottenham is the most important thing for us to go from the nearly theirs to the just about there and eventually to the champions. He has lofty ambitions. I have lofty ambitions. I love you all. Have a lofty, ambitious Monday. I'll see you later. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, bye-bye.